White, Seventh-day Adventist theologians, and interpreters such as Stephen Borer consistently argue that Colossians 2:16 does not refer to the Sabbath of the Ten Commandments, the seventh-day Sabbath, but rather to the ceremonial Sabbaths or festival Sabbaths of the Jewish law system. Ellen G. White's explanation. Ellen White wrote that Colossians 2:16-17 cannot refer to the seventh-day Sabbath because the Sabbath was instituted before sin existed, Genesis 2:2-3, and therefore did not prefigure redemption or type the work of Christ, unlike later feasts or ceremonial Sabbaths, which were shadows pointing forward to Christ's work. She explicitly said, Colossians 2:16 does not refer to the seventh-day Sabbath, but to the yearly Sabbaths and feast days of the Jews, because the seventh-day Sabbath predates the plan of salvation and isn't typological in nature. Adventist theologian explanation. Adventist scholars almost universally maintain that the term Sabbath days in Colossians 2:16 is to be understood contextually with the preceding reference to holy days and new moons, reflecting a festival sequence found in the Old Testament for yearly, monthly, and ceremonial occasions, not the weekly Sabbath enshrined in the Decalogue. Paul is speaking about ritual activities performed during the sacred times, i.e., ceremonial feasts and their associated Sabbaths, which were shadows of Christ, which is not classed as a shadow or a temporary ordinance in Scripture. Stephen Borer's position. While there is no direct mainstream published quotation from Stephen Borer in major Adventist literature, his interpretation aligns with the traditional Seventh-day Adventist position. Colossians 2:16 refers only to ceremonial or shadow Sabbaths, and not the weekly Sabbath. His arguments echo the Church's core appeal to context, festival new moon Sabbath sequence, Old Testament typology, and the creation origin of the weekly Sabbath, which exempts it from having a shadow function related to Christ's first advent. Key points and sources. Ellen White. Colossians 2:16 is talking about yearly Sabbaths and feast days of the Jews, not the creation, Sinai Sabbath. Adventist theology. The Sabbaths in Colossians 2:16-17 fit a pattern in Leviticus and elsewhere of ceremonial, not weekly, Sabbath observances. Paul's use of shadow. Only ordinances with a prophetic or typological shadow relation to Christ are in view, not the seventh-day Sabbath, which is given as a perpetual memorial of creation, Genesis 2, Exodus 20. This distinction forms the bedrock of the Adventist and Ellen White approach to Colossians 2:16, as excluding the weekly Sabbath of the Ten Commandments.